welcome to this week's video. For this week, I'm going to be doing my wrap-up for the month of July. It was a pretty good month. I had a couple of rereads for reasons, and good on paperbacks, good on ebooks, on Audible. So, let's get through the paperbacks first. We will start with my rereads for reasons. I reread Lisa Kleypas's Seduce Me at Sunrise, and that is the story of Kev and Winnie, and oh yeah, Lisa Kleypas. Oh, and there's the insert cover. People call them stepbacks. I don't know why. There's that. But I call them insert covers because they're inserted, and they're inserted in their covers. They're under the covers. So, bleh. So this one is on my keeper shelf, and I reread it, and it's the story of Kev and Winnie, and Kev is is the term Romany? Because I know gypsy is, like, we don't use that word anymore. They used it a little bit in here, but I like how she sort of went back and forth with using, like, at least she... When was this published? 2008. Yeah, so I think it was, like, around there that we were starting to be like, we don't really, shouldn't use the word gypsy. So she did sort of like kind of like change it up and use the word Romany more. And he is in love with, Kev is a Romany, and he is in love with Winnie, and it's sort of a I'm not good enough for you kind of thing, and she has sort of always been in love with him, and is constantly trying to like show him that they belong together, but at a certain point she's just like, and he's constantly like playing like hot and cold with her, because he's like, I'm not good enough for you, so he's like treating her like not very nicely in some instances, and then he's like a simp for her in other instances. So she finally has enough, and she's like, F this, I'm out, I'm going, and like taking a trip to somewhere. I'm not sure where she goes, I don't remember, but yeah, and she's like, I'm gonna go and like, was it to school? To like, yeah, so she goes, she takes off for a while, and she's like, yeah, if I'm like done sort of like beating my head against the wall that is you. And then sort of like she comes back, and you know, it's them sort of reigniting the flame between them that has never really been put out. And I also liked the sort of subplot with Kev finding out that Cam is his brother. I really liked their kind of developing relationship, because it's one of like very much like friction, but when they discover that they're brothers, well, things change a little bit gradually, and I really liked how that relationship developed very, very much. So this was a reread. Also, another reread was my absolute favorite Julia Quinn novel of all time, and it's When He Was Wicked. And there's the insert cover for that. And this is the story of Michael Sterling and Francesca Bridgerton, who I can't remember, but I think in the Bridgerton series, I don't remember them mentioning that she was a sibling. I could have sworn that they refer to her as a cousin. I could be wrong. I have to watch like maybe season 1 again because I think that's when they mention her. And I think in the show she's already married to Michael, so I don't think that we're gonna get their story. But in here, she's one of the children. She's the F in Anthony, Benedict, Colin, Daphne, Eloise, Francesca, Gregory, Hyacinth. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I could be wrong, but I could have sworn in season 1 of Bridgerton, they referred to Francesca as a cousin. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I completely misunderstood the scene where either, I think, does she show up? Y'all, it's been a while since I've seen season 1. But anyway, this is my favorite Julia Quinn book of all time. The angst, y'all. The angst of this book. Michael Sterling is a bit of a playboy, and he falls in love for the very first time when he sees Francesca. However, the moment that he sees Francesca, the moment that he falls in love for the first time, is the moment that she is getting married to his best friend, John. So, whoops. So now, Michael spends this time pining and hating himself for being in love with this woman. And then John dies. So, John dies. And then there's the added, I am now in love with my best friend's widow. And I really like how they played, or how the characters, how the story played out Francesca's grief and Michael's grief for losing his best friend. Because Julia Quinn didn't write it as, oh, my husband John was an ass, so it's not a bad, we're not going to be too upset over the fact that he died. No. Francesca was blissfully happy with John. Their marriage was wonderful. And then he dies, I think, of a brain aneurysm, because he goes to bed one night complaining about a headache, and then in the middle of the night, he dies. So Francesca and Michael, Michael is so overcome with guilt over his best friend dying, and he somehow thinks that he's to blame in some way for John dying because he was in love with Francesca. So he takes off and is not there for Francesca when she needs him, because he is overcome with guilt and grief. So they're sort of apart for a little while. And then when they get sort of back together, there is the sort of fighting their feelings, because I think a good amount of time sort of has passed when they, I think a year or two has passed. Maybe 4? Am I thinking 4? They're apart for a while. And then it's them coming back together and sort of fighting their feelings for each other, but not being able to, of course, fight their feelings. And I think when Michael went off, it was either during the war or something, but he went off and ended up contracting malaria. So there are these wonderful scenes of him like trying to stay away from Francesca, but she always sort of like ends up showing up when he's having a spell or a bout of malaria, and she's like taking care of him, and he's like, it's like a torture for him, but like a sweet torture because he gets to be near her, but he doesn't want to feel what he's feeling. But having her take care of him like feels so like wonderful, and it's just, I love this book so much. I cannot even. Yeah. So reread that one. And then a new Julia Quinn for me was The Secrets of Sir Richard Kenworthy. And this one is the story of, yes, Iris and Richard. And Richard has to find himself a bride. And I think that Iris is one of the Smiths. So, like, this is like an offshoot of, like, after, like, the Bridgertons, she started the Smythe Smith. Why? With that last name, why? Richard has to find himself a bride for reasons that we don't know at the beginning. But pretty much anybody will do, but he would prefer to find a bride that he would get along with. So he meets Iris at a family concert thing, these hideous, horrible family concerts that she's forced to participate in because none of them can play. I think Iris can, like, maybe a little, but no. These concerts are not good for anybody. But for some reason, they put them on. So Richard, like, sees her and is sort of like, she seems to understand, like, he's looking at her and he's like, she seems to understand that what's happening here is not good for anybody. She seems to not want to be here and to hate being here, so she intrigues me. I think I'm gonna like her. I think I'm gonna pick her. So they basically have like one date, or like a couple of dances at like a ball, and then they're attracted to each other, and but Iris is then put in a compromising position with Richard because he proposes to her like on that night, and she's like, I've only known you for 5 minutes, what the star? So she turns his proposal down because she's like, too soon, no bueno, put on the brakes, please. And then I think it's either another ball or either like later that night that he kisses her and makes sure that people see her being compromised. So now she has to marry him. And she's a little pissed about that. But she's kind of resigned. She's like, okay, I'm now. Thank you very much for that. I'm mad at you, but damn, you're hot. So it's sort of that. But Richard is not so much for the wedding night and not so much for the marital relations. He keeps putting them off for some reason. Yeah. So as their relationship sort of develops, like during the marriage, and it's marriage of convenience, but their relationship develops, and Iris sort of is getting more and more frustrated, and her self-esteem is getting more and more lowered, because she doesn't understand why this man went to all this trouble to marry her and yet doesn't want the nookie. For why? She's like, for why then, dude? And then we discover the for why. Why the marry? Why the marry but no sexy? So Richard has a sister, and the sister is knocked up by someone that he thinks, because she's told him, that doesn't want anything to do with the baby and has like abandoned her and blah blah blah. So in order for his sister not to get ruined, Richard comes up with the inspired idea to marry someone, and then his sister will have the baby, and then he and the wife will take the baby and pretend that it's their baby, so that his sister can go on in society and not be ruined. Yeah. So Iris finds out about this plan and is understandably angry. And his sister finds out that this was his plan, and is understandably angry. So everybody pissed at Richard. Justifiably so. But gradually, you know, they're trying to like work through the anger of like his stupid plan. And the sister tells him, it's not that the guy abandoned me. It's that the guy is of a lower class than me. So we love each other, but the sister like didn't want to ruin the guy's life, and she didn't want to ruin sort of her brother's life, because something along the lines of like, if she went to the guy and was with the guy, then the society would think that like he was a fortune hunter or something like that, or like that he wouldn't be welcomed like into society, and that like, yeah. And then sort of the same thing with her brother, that he would be shunned by society. They wouldn't, their brothers like businesses would suffer, and like the guys' businesses would suffer, and like, but I think like eventually, I think that like she does go to the guy and is like, then they like end up together, I believe. And then because I didn't take notes for this one, for I don't remember why, but I liked this very much, but I didn't love it. And it's because throughout like the whole thing, when we find out Richard's reason for wanting to marry Iris, I was like horrified. I was horrified, and Iris was too, but I was horrified because I was like, what? The amount of groveling that this man is going to have to do for me to not want him to get eaten by a lion is going to be some pretty big groveling. So after this whole thing with the sister is kind of resolved, and Richard goes to Iris and is like begging for her forgiveness, and he tries to give me the grovel that I want. He really does. However, Iris keeps stopping him from giving me the grovel that I want. He's like, what I've done is like unforgivable, and I can, I totally understand if you want to leave me, I will love you for the rest of my life, and like, he's trying to grovel to her, but she keeps telling him to stop, that he's like, not because she's not forgiving him, but because she has forgiven him. Even like before the grovel. Ma'am? No. No. She, like, he's trying to, like, apologize and like beg for her forgiveness, and she's like, stop, I've already forgiven you, it doesn't matter, I still love you. And I'm like, shut up and let him grovel. He should be groveling, but she kept like shutting him up. So finally he's like, okay, and they live happily ever after. So that kind of took it from a enjoyable to a from maybe like what would have been a 4 stars to a 3, because she wouldn't shut up and let him grovel. So that was Julia Quinn's Secrets of Sir Richard Kenworthy. I am reading right now the Devil's rereading right now, The Devil's Daughter by Lisa Kleypas, and very much enjoying it. I love this book, so I'm reading it for reasons. For Audible, I read Jenna Jameson's Sugar, co-written by Hope Tarr, and I wish that this one worked for me, because I liked the premise, but then it was like, okay, so Sugar is was a porn actress, an actress in the adult entertainment industry. Shocker of shockers, yes, I know. Which I think was Jenna Jameson's mistake, because we all know Jenna Jameson was, I don't think she is anymore. I don't think she's done any more films, but she was a pretty successful adult entertainment actress. And they say write what you know, and really only idiots say write what you know, because the imagination is a thing. And yeah, so Sugar is a actress in the adult entertainment industry, and she's being stalked by some weirdo, which I'm sure, I don't know if Jenna Jameson has ever had a stalker, but I'm sure she has gotten some weird ass fan interactions and fan mail. I can only imagine what that woman has had to deal with in her career. And so she gets the hell out of LA, and I think she goes to New York. She goes back to New York, the character Sugar. And she's trying to, like, because she wants to retire. She wants to retire from the adult entertainment industry. She's like, I've had enough. I've done what I wanted to do. Plus, creepy stalker dude. So she gets out of LA, she goes to New York. And she's kind of like flying under the radar, and she, you know, goes back to sort of like, she's dropped the sugar like persona, and so she's like back to like the way she looks like normally, and you know, she's just very sort of like casual and like trying to like not be noticed. And of course, there's a guy who she meets in a supermarket who, even like without knowing like who she is, he was way too pushy, in my opinion. Cole, I think his name was. And, you know, he meets her while she's like trying to get ice cream, and he's, you know, basically like trying to pick her up, but without like trying to seem obvious about it, but being obvious about it. But he like apparently doesn't know who she is, but she seems familiar to him for some reason. But he can't put his finger on where he's seen her before. And I believe Cole was either a Marine or a Special Forces guy. He was like a, you know, big, tough, some kind of, I don't think he was a cop. But, yeah, so he's, you know, kind of letting her know that definitely he's interested and, like, wants to take her out. And she's like, you know, thank you, but no thank you. And he's, like, even when she's, like, sort of, like, definitely giving out signals of, like, no thank you, and, like, she's trying to be nice, because as girls, we can't possibly be rude, to somebody and just say no, and, we're told that women should never, like, be, you know, like, assertive or, like, aggressive or, you know, we can't appear to be being rude. Women have been told this for, like, ever. So she's trying to, like, definitely, like, give him the signals of, like, I'm not interested, thank you very much, let me go on my way. But Cole has, like, oh, never felt such an instant attraction towards a woman before. So, of course, that gives him the right to keep pursuing her. So he follows her to the checkout line, and he's, like, you know, still, like, trying to... And the thing is, like, he's not aggressive or, like, rude about it, but he's insistent enough, and, like, not even, like, you have to go out with me, blah, blah, blah. But just, like, the way that he's behaving with her, I would have, like, been a lot more pissed off than she was. And, you know, like, she was starting to get, like, annoyed, but fine. Then, like, she's on her, you know, she's basically like, no, thank you, I'm, you know, not interested in, like, going out on a date with you, and blah, blah, blah. So she goes out, and she gets mugged right outside of the store, the grocery store, and so she gets mugged and gets, like, thrown to the ground, and her purse gets stolen, and her, like, ice cream gets, like, spilled all over, like, you know, falls all over the ground and, like, gets ruined. And so Cole, like, takes off and, like, tries to, you know, catches the guy who, like, stole her purse and was, like, gonna, like, basically, like, kill the guy. And Sugar's like, you know, calm down, you don't need to, like, go, like, all, like, bah, you know, like, crazy psycho on him, just, like, I got my purse back, it's all good, blah, blah, blah. And he basically uses that opportunity to get a date with her. He's like, you know, tries to be, like, all cute about it, but is kind of like, oh, like, you know, now, like, don't you think that you should, like, give me a chance? And here's the thing, guys like to play this card of like, you know, I'm asking you out, just give me a chance. So that like we're seeming like a bitch if we say no. Instead of being like, I don't have to give you a chance. Like, where does it, you know, I know society is like, you know, if a guy asks you out, you know, you should be nice and, you know, give him a chance. No, I don't have to if I don't want to. I don't want to, Harold Watson. Little House on the Prairie reference. If you get that, leave me a comment below. Leave me a comment below if you get that Little House on the Prairie reference. I don't want to. I said I don't want to, Harold Watson. But, fine. She agrees. And so they're at dinner, and he gets her ice cream he doesn't get her ice cream at the brunch or dinner or lunch or whatever. He says to her, I have ice cream like at my apartment. Okay. Now, no. You know, she went out with you, and you're like, and like now you're like pushing it. This stranger is basically trying to get you to come to his house. No. And and she says to him, no thank you, you know, I know that, like, you know, we had like this lunch and, you know, thank you very much for everything you did for me, but I'm not going to sleep with you. I don't owe you anything. Yeah, I don't owe you anything. And he kind of like, I like how Jenna Jameson like tries to play it off. Like he gets like very serious and very like, not offended, but like very like, oh, see how much I respect women kind of vibe about him. When he's like, oh, no, of course not. You don't owe me anything. You totally like don't owe me sex. You don't owe me anything at all. Like, we're having a nice dinner, and if that's how you want to like end it, that's perfectly fine. I am attracted to you, and I would like to, you know, like spend more time with you, but you don't owe me anything. However, it's like Jenna Jameson kind of played it off like it felt like just lip service for the reader, so that the reader won't be following along with this guy, this pushy ass, creepy guy, and won't be thinking, oh, this is a bad idea. He's gonna like murder her and like either like rape and murder her and stick her head in his fridge. And then Jenna Jameson is like, no, don't think that. See, he's saying that she doesn't owe him anything, so he's a good guy. He's the hero. See, I have him saying that she doesn't owe him anything, so clearly he's the hero. No. He's saying that, but none of his actions up to this point have proven that. And this is a romance, so the way it should have gone is they should have met in the grocery store, and they could have had their like cute little banter as they did, and then he could have like asked her out, and she said no, and that should have been the end of it for that encounter. Then they could have met some other way, like a little bit later, and somehow the attraction between them could like sort of like grow kind of like organically, and they could have like some more like interactions, and then like he like dates her and grow from like that, not from him acting like because he helped her with this mugger, she owed him a lunch date. And not because he, you know, she lost her ice cream or whatever got ruined, she, you know, should come to his house, this guy that she's known for like all of an hour. But yeah, so they go to his house, they have the sex, like right there, which again, no shaming here. If you meet somebody and you're attracted to them, consenting adults, fully for you. But just the fact that like this whole time she's been, you know, trying to like put him off and, you know, not she doesn't want to get into a relationship with anybody because she's, you know, she pretty much just got home. She just got back to New York and she wants to like find her footing and sort of like see like what she wants to do with her life. And there's this subplot with like her friend who's dying, which is like was like so sad. But yeah, like they have the sex and it's apparently like so good that she ends up crying. And okay, I know that they are actors in the adult entertainment industry, but I'm sorry, I find it very hard to believe that none of the sex in the adult entertainment industry is good. That all the time, that every time that they're having sex in an adult movie, that they're not enjoying themselves. I believe that many times, because of like the circumstances and like how long they've been there and like just how long it's taking and like having people watching and blah blah blah, that it's very technical. Totally understand that. However, as physical human beings with physical reactions and organs and like nerve endings and like I'm sorry. I call bullshit on the character of Sugar having never had good sex as an actress in the adult entertainment industry until she meets this rando dude in a grocery store. And that's when I DNF'd the book. I DNF'd the book because I pretty much, one, it felt too autobiographical for me. I think Jenna Jameson made a mistake by making her first novel basically a fictionalized version of herself. And I pretty much I know what's going to happen in this novel. I know. If I'm wrong, I will send you $100. Not really, but I will send you $100. He is going to find out that she is a porn star, and he is going to get his pride. Oh my god, his frail, magic male ego. Oh, his poor pride. Is going to be like, how could you have lied to me? And like, was anything that happened between us real? Or were you just faking like you did for the cameras? And they're going to be like apart. And then she's going to be like, oh, I should have been more understanding of his male pride, you know, because I should be more understanding because I love him. And if I love him, I should be more understanding of his male pride. And then they're going to get back together and live happily ever after. That's what's going to happen in this book. And if I'm wrong, I will pay you $100. Really, not really. So that one did not work for me. The next one that I read was Above and Beyond by Catherine Shea, and I read this one by ebook, and I enjoyed it. And it is this woman who is the sister of the president, who is being, she's recently widowed, and she has 2 boys, and she is getting these threatening notes, and basically it's somebody is threatening to kill the president's sister, and is sort of like using her to get the president and to sort of like hurt the president. And so there is a Secret Service guy in the president's Secret Service named Nick, who is hired to protect the heroine. And I enjoyed this book immensely. And the reason that I enjoyed it immensely, instead of just liking it, was, and I think this would be the case for those of you who have loved the Has Fallen series of movies with Gerard Butler. If you love those movies, that will increase your enjoyment of this book. And if I didn't love those movies so much, I think I would have just liked the story. It would have been okay. It would have been nice. It was a nice, sexy read. But I think the reason that I loved it so much is because, y'all, Mike Banning was the hero in this book for me. His name was Nick, but in my head, he was Mike Banning, played by the sumptuous Gerard Butler in the Has Fallen movies. In Olympus Has Fallen, London Has Fallen, Angel Has Fallen. And they are just delicious, explodey, popcorn action movies that are just... If he wants to make another one, I will completely watch it. I have no shame. I have this, I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I believe you enjoy all your pleasures with pride, damn it. And I enjoy the Has Fallen movies with pride and with great female sexual arousal. And so that is why my enjoyment of this book was increased. It's a good story, very nice, very, likable, but I think it's especially likable if you enjoy the Gerard Butler Has Fallen movies, where he plays a Secret Service agent who protects the president, played by Aaron Eckhart, and then Morgan Freeman. So enjoyed that. And I recently DNF'd Carissima by Rosanna Chiofalo, and I was so looking forward to this book because it's one of those woman in the present day meets an old sort of movie star and gets to learn about her life and interview her, and you get her life is affected by the old movie star's life, and yeah, we have Pia and we have Francesca. Francesca is an old Italian movie star. She's like in her 80s. And we have Pia, who is trying to make a name for herself as an up-and-coming journalist. And it's sort of eventually, and I say eventually, Pia is going to get to interview Francesca for a story. Now, I think, like 2 hours into this. It's a 17-hour audiobook. It did not need to be that long. It dragged, y'all. And it did not need to be that long. I got 2 hours into it. I read it, like, I read my audiobooks to and from work, which is a commute of, like, usually, if I catch everything, a little over half an hour, like 45 minutes. If it takes longer, sometimes an hour. So, to and from, over the course of, like, three days, because I didn't work on Saturday. I didn't work on, like, Friday or Saturday for reasons that we will discuss in a later vlog. And so 2 or 3 days, and Pia and Francesca had not even met yet. Pia had met this guy who is some sort of, like, either assistant to Francesca, or he has something to do with the house or that Francesca's staying at with Francesca's sister, who they somehow, there's some kind of friction there. Her and Francesca and her sister. And yeah, they had not even met yet, Pia and Francesca. And I was like, I wanted to keep reading, but I was like, get on with it. Like, it was just taking too long, and, like, Francesca's getting these gifts from some anonymous stranger, and I was like, okay, and then, like, she's describing, like, you know, the gifts and the jewels and how many times she's been almost married and how many times she's played women who've been almost married, and you know, her relationship with the servant, and, like, you know, and then her relationship with her sister, and Pia's like, oh, her relationship with her aunt, and, like, you know, starting how she's, like, not liking being an intern at this, like, magazine because they're not, like, you know, it's not what she thought it would be, and it's just 2 hours, y'all. And I DNF'd it, which, like, maybe I'll get it in paperback, like, eventually, and, like, finish it, but just, y'all, I have so many books to read. You know, cause, yeah, part of me was like, you know, I love the writing style, and I love, like, Rosanna's writing voice, and the narrator was good, but it was taking too long to get to where I wanted to be. I wanted to hear about Francesca's life through, you know, and I wanted to see her relationship with Pia develop, but it was just taking too long. I have books to read. Let's go. So, yeah, maybe if I find it in paperback, I might, you know, like, pick it up, sort of, like, have on my shelf and, like, read, continue the story someday. But in audiobook, I'm like, girl, get a move on. Chop chop, let's go. So, like, yeah. So I think that's it. That's it for this week's video. So I have my new paperback that I'm reading, and that's rereading. That's The Devil Daughter by Lisa Kleypas. I do not have my ebook yet chosen for the month of August. I do not have my Audible chosen yet for the month of August. So that'll be a surprise for when I do my August wrap-up. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/authorejamie. Like my Facebook page at facebook.com/authorejamie. And I will talk with you guys next time. Bye!